Facebook, and welcome to Monday. This is my third attempt at this podcast. So, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching on YouTube or on Facebook. On YouTube, you can find it under Brushing Teeth with Robert. And then go to the live tab, and you'll see a list of the live shows that I've done so far, including probably a link to this one. So, welcome to Monday. I hope everybody's having a good Monday. It is approximately 5:22 in the PM, and it is 107 degrees here in North Texas. So, I hope you are staying nice and cool. Lord knows this old ass house is not helping me much. If you want to call in, the phone number is 512-952-9489. I know I'm doing this kind of semi during work hours, so I actually don't expect anybody to see this. But if you do, good. If you don't, eh. If you watch it later, you can call me and bitch about it later. So, hi, welcome to Monday. And I didn't really prepare anything at all, like the last two episodes. Absolutely prepared nothing. The main reason I want to get on here is just because I want to keep a consistency to see how this works out, to see if it works out well, and see if I can keep it going for a little while. I am off this week, so that is nice. It gives me a chance to kind of get in this rhythm. Yesterday was a nice day. What did I do yesterday? Okay, so I did this podcast, and I did this podcast, I think, before I went and did stand up. Um, I did go do stand up. I also did my laundry. I also today washed my bedding, put my laundry up because, as we all know, laundry never gets put up the same day you do it. It's normally the day after you do it. I generally I don't put up my clothes the same day. Oh, I would like to rep a business. I like to rep Dolly Python, both in both two locations in Dallas, one off of Haskell and one over in Bishop Arts. Thank you for these gorgeous jeans that they gave me today. That was very nice. And I'd also like to say hello to Marco, who kept me company while I was in there, which was very nice of him. Um, so it has been a pretty lame last 12 to 24 hours. I have not really done much besides doing things around the house. I doing a lot of chores and lacking on a lot of things that I should have been doing. I should have been fixing a couple light switches you can't see that are been torn apart for a long time. So hopefully tonight when I get home from doing stand up, I will go ahead and do that. Also, I think what I'm going to do is since I don't feel anybody's going to call in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to triple hit this. So we're going to go ahead and put on our Instagram and see if that works as well. Lately. So the funny thing is that lately I have been getting into something. Let's see. Okay. So lately I've been getting into weird Instagrams on spooky things. Things like skinwalkers, things like UFOs, things like ghosts. Hello, Randy. How are you doing? So, one of the things that was really weird. Okay, so I got into a podcast not too long ago, and it was called the Sasquatch Chronicles. Now, hear me out. Okay, hear me out. I am not a big Bigfoot believer. I'm going to start there. I'm not a huge Bigfoot believer, okay? But I will say this. There are things about Bigfoot that do interest me. Like they do they pique my interest, as they say. Um, which is odd. And now when you're driving in the middle of the night, last 2 years I've traveled a lot. There's been a lot of driving, a lot of overnight driving, a lot of late night driving, a lot of 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning driving, where you're just driving for a very long time. How you doing on Instagram? Um, and you're driving in the middle of the night, which is pretty spooky. Going between here and Georgia, for instance, or going from here to Wisconsin. There are humongous swaths of land that you're just driving in the middle of darkness. Now, I will tell you this. I got into this thing called the Sasquatch Chronicles, which was kind of weird and kind of odd. but it's a very simple podcast. It's a gentleman who interviews people who've had Bigfoot or skinwalker encounters, or even just phenomena, or what do you call them, cryptid encounters. All right, and if you don't know the word, I just found out the word about 3 years ago. It's a CRYPTID, cryptid, and cryptid means pretty much any kind of creature that is unexplainable. And there are regions of the U.S. in which cryptids are there's a local cryptid. For instance, here in Dallas, we have what's known as the Lake Worth Monster. Down in the valley of Texas, you have La Rona, which is the ghost who cries for her children that were drowned in the Rio Grande. Up near Washington State, up near Washington State, Oregon, Idaho, of course, that is the big Northern California. You have the large range kind of swath of the Bigfoot. There's all sorts of Detroit has what's it called? I think it's called the green elf or the red dwarf or something like that. But they also have like dog people, or I think it's dog people. I want to say it's dog people, I'm pretty sure. And it's a cryptid that is basically, no, I know whoever's listening, I'm losing you here, but just hear me out, okay? This is a thing. Cryptids are do have local legend if you believe that they're fake, or local sightings depending on where that is. What the fuck is the one in Detroit? The one in Detroit is, I believe it's like I want to see a green dwarf or a red dwarf or something, and it's known to dance down the street right before huge natural disasters happen. For instance, like the Mothman. Everyone's heard of the Mothman prophecies. Not everybody, but a lot of people have. And the Mothman happens up, I believe, near New England or Connecticut. And they generally have sightings of a Mothman on a bridge, generally right before a natural disaster happens. And I believe that one of the times the Mothman was sighted was right around the time that a bridge collapsed, for instance. Or I believe the Mothman was sighted right before 9/11. Weird things like that. So there are regions of the U.S. that have their own kind of cryptid or unexplained anomaly or unexplained creature. Now, lately I've been getting into Bigfoot. Don't ask me why. I don't understand it either. Okay, but I do know that the Bigfoot, there are there are odd things, and lately there have been a couple sightings. In fact, I think there was a drone video that happened, and I believe there was a pretty good video that was found, or somebody took, that was through a set of woods. The drone video I watched, it was from on top, and honestly, it could have been any hunter that is in his hunting gear, So that is, you can give or take that one. All right. Now, I lately have been getting into Bigfoot, and this is why. Well, I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why. I heard an interview with the guy who runs this podcast. It seemed interesting, and so I started listening. Now, here are some commonalities of a Bigfoot sighting in case you ever get involved in one. By the way, if you'd like to call in, my phone number does have Instagram on it right now, but I'm willing to interrupt that. The phone number is 512-952-9489. If you want to call in, talk, discuss anything, need a piece of advice, I am here to listen. All right. So, here are several things that happen during a Bigfoot sighting that you can know ahead of time that you may be in the area of a Bigfoot. All right. Now, one thing is this: everything gets very quiet. Everything gets very, very quiet. Birds stop chirping, animals stop rustling around. Even if you have domesticated animals, supposedly they get very quiet and become very hyper focused in one direction, or they will go hide immediately. So that is a commonality if you think you're going to have a Bigfoot sighting or encounter of any time. Also, the supposedly the gravitational pressure that happens around the area gets odd. The air becomes lighter. Things become very almost like gravity is not working as well as it normally does. Now, real quick, Again, if you'd like to call in, 512-952-9489. You can find me on Instagram under 12 Brown. I'm doing it live there. Also, Ronin Brown, Ronin Brown on Facebook, and then on YouTube under Brushing Teeth with Robert. Now, whenever there is an odd parallel or almost symbiosis in a lot of Bigfoot stories between Bigfoot and UFOs, or UFO sightings that happen to be happening a lot in the same area in which a Bigfoot is then encountered or seen. By the way, yes, I know way too much about this. I know way too much about this. It is true. I do. I know way too much about this. This shows you how much time I have on my hands. So that also happens. Supposedly, UFO sightings and a gravitational difference also happens right around the same time that you have a Bigfoot sighting. Now, again, I'd like to say this. I don't 100% believe in this. I don't. I'm just giving public information. This is just a PSA to let you know what I've seen or what well, not what I've seen, what I've heard or what I've listened to from Bigfoot encounters. Again, I'd like to say I don't 100% believe in Bigfoot. This is just something that I've listened to. All right. Now, there is another thing that happens every once in a while during a Bigfoot sighting. Now, if you believe in ghosts, you'll know about this thing. Um, if you believe in ghosts, you know about the little orbs that happen in pictures. Um, go ahead and research it if you don't know anything about it. But a lot of times when people claim to have like spectral visits or know something about ghosts or visit ghosts, I'm going to, as I do these every day, I'm going to try to figure out where I should put my mic, where I should be sitting, and things like that. Just so you know. Um, so, do do you think Bigfoot responds? I know my unalienable. um, so there is a thing about ghosts. Um, that supposedly ghost sightings also generally happen around the time that Bigfoot sightings happen. And those little glowing orbs that are in ghosts that happen with ghosts also happen around Bigfoot sightings. It's not unusual for you to have a Bigfoot sighting and to see those little orbs that are captured on camera during ghost sightings. Now, I don't know again if any of this is true. I see you laughing on Instagram. Listen, I'm just telling you what I heard on podcasts. All right. Now, again, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube. If you want to call in, 512-952-9489, feel free. Now, here is the thing about as I've listened to the Sasquatch Chronicles more and more. Okay. What I have learned is that there is there I'm not definite on whether I believe or not, but I do I can see how you'd believe. I can see how you'd believe. I can. Now, I have to pause for 30 seconds because I have to go get my charger because again I was unprepared for one of my phones going low on charge. So I'll be back in less than 30 seconds. This is the best part about not having a lot of listeners is I can do things like this and not give a fuck. All right, so let's talk more about Bigfoot and whether anybody has had a Bigfoot sighting. Um, here's the funny thing. As I watch these and as I watch these kind of Bigfoot documentaries or these Bigfoot podcasts, there is this thing that is very, very odd. You do kind of start to understand where these people are coming from. Allow. Okay, good. You do kind of start to understand where these people are coming from. Well, Bigfoot do drive a tow truck. That's Well, if you've ever been to a monster truck rally, you've seen Bigfoot. So I have definitely seen Bigfoot. So SSEY64, yes, on Instagram, yes. I have seen Bigfoot in monster truck form. Now, here is the deal. Do I believe in Bigfoot wholeheartedly? No. Do I see how Bigfoot's believable? Absolutely. And also, do I believe that there are ancient civilizations that still exist today that may not have been discovered, may have hid from human and modern civilization in order to keep their way of life? Absolutely, I do. In fact, it is not unusual. It is not unusual for us to have discovered a civilization that has been around for a really long time, and yet they stay hidden. They stay hidden. God damn it! Now I need a drink. All right, hold on. Be right back in. Hold on. This is why I should have a podcast partner or for things like this. This is exactly why I need Upshaw in my life, or for times like this. Do you think Bigfoot met the Flintstones? Oh, very funny. No, I do not. Well, I don't. Okay, so the theory is, to answer your question, do you think Bigfoot met Flintstone? All right. So let's talk about ancient civilizations real quick. Now, there is the theory that Bigfoot has been here since prehistoric times. In fact, there are some indications in Native American cave drawings, Native American writings, that there was a time in which Bigfoot existed. Hear me out. Just hear me out, okay? There supposedly was a time in which Bigfoot traded with Native Americans, in which there was actually they were kind of a friendly civilization with different Native American tribes. Look it up. I am not making this up. There are supposedly writings and drawings in which Native American tribes did coexist with Bigfoot. So to answer your question, did they meet the Flintstones? I mean, the Jetsons met the Flintstones, so crazier things have happened. So now I know this subject is odd, and I know I just kind of threw myself into the subject. Okay, I know. I know if you're watching this, you're like, why is he talking about Bigfoot? What sense does this make? This is why I'm talking about Bigfoot. Because I went and I forgot to mention this, but I went and did a comedy set at an actual Alcoholics Anonymous group. Okay. And I mentioned this about 2 podcasts ago. Now, here is the deal. In between, there was somebody who was like setting up a keyboard and stuff. So it took a minute. And so the MC said, "Hey, does anybody have anything they want us to talk about or anything while we fill the time?" And this guy stood up who was from Washington State and said, "I have a Bigfoot story." And he said it out of nowhere. I mean, it came out of nowhere, right? And I'm like, okay, well, then I was going to go smoke a cigarette, but now I will sit here and listen to this gentleman's Bigfoot story. So his story goes like this. Story was is that he grew up in a state of Washington State, a part of Washington State that was very rural. And every day, him and his friend, when they would get off the bus, they had a little bit of a walk up to their house, and then their house was on basically on a farm of almost 100 acres. Okay, which, if you know anything, 100 acres is a decent amount of land. I mean, that's a good amount of land, right? Now, keep this in mind. Um, he said there was a big hill that was out on this land, and it wasn't too far. It was just a couple miles. And what they would do is they would kind of like take some snacks and stuff. And as kids would do, they would venture out into the woods, go up and sit on this hill. And it wasn't unusual. This was something they did pretty much every day, okay, or every other day, right? Well, one day, him and his friend decided to do that. And they get off the bus, they go into the house, they drop off their book bags and everything. They venture up this hill. He said it's a far hill. He said it was a pretty steep climb. But what you do is once you get up on top of this hill, he said you kind of winded. And so they're kind of winded and they're sitting there for a second. And the birds are chirping, everything. He said, and then everything goes silent. So everything goes very silent. So, and then they hear a blood curdling scream. And he said it was so loud that they both hunkered down and grabbed their ears because the scream was so loud. Then he said after the scream stopped, they stood up and it freaked them out. So they started running and they started beelining for the house. Now, as they were beelining for the house, he said at one point, and he said they were booking it. They are running. They are full-fledged running. And he said at one point, they look over to their left and they saw an extremely tall, extremely furry creature, and it was booking it too, almost right next to him. So, and he yells to his friend while they're running. His friend yells to him. They're flipping out, and they run all the way to the house. And of course, it's rural Washington, so they grabbed guns, sat in the corner of the house, and just pointed the guns outwards like shotguns until the dad got home. Which, of course, dad gets home. Dad sees two of his, his son, and then his son's friend is hunkered down in the corner with a shotgun. He's like, "What the fuck is going on?" You know, and so they proceed to tell him the story. Now, what did he see? I don't know what he saw. I don't know if he saw a Bigfoot. He could have seen a Bigfoot or not. I don't know. But I will tell you this. Everything he said fell in line with every Bigfoot story I've heard. Every single one I've heard. Now, keep this in mind. I also heard a story on the Sasquatch Chronicles that was very similar. And it was actually a young lady, and she was visiting her grandmother. No, her grandmother, this is what it was. Her grandmother had recently passed away and willed her this house that was in upstate Washington State. And during this time, she, of course, didn't have a real good place to live. So she moves out there, of course, in hopes of renovating the place and moving into her grandmother's house and all that, right? Well, at one point, she's down by the water. There's like a lake, and she comes in contact with a Bigfoot. Now, not only does she come in contact with Bigfoot, but she said it was almost like. Now, hear me out, okay? Hear me out, because I'm trying to remember this from memory, but she remembers thinking, first of all, there was a Bigfoot guy and a Bigfoot girl that she had an encounter with. And she remembers that the Bigfoot guy was almost curious in a sexual way. Like he was almost like he could tell she was a female, that she had a female form. Okay, let's see. Big could probably more of instincts, not eyesight, would you say? Yes. I would say probably more off instinct, absolutely, than eyesight. But who knows? Years of evolution and years of doing what they do from hiding their fucking eyesight, and I bet you their smell. I bet you their if they exist. Okay, if they exist, that's a good question. Okay, that's a good question. Um, I don't know if it'd be completely off instincts. I would say it would be more off of sight and smell. Honestly, um, I every version I have heard of a Bigfoot sighting, they generally talk about the Bigfoots almost being able to run through brush and bramble and stickers and thorns so fast that it's almost like they're floating. Like that's how well trained they are in a forest or a underbrush atmosphere. So I would imagine probably eyesight and smell, but I'd imagine instinct is built in there because they have avoided human modern civilization for so long. This is a fucking ridiculous conversation. Can we just go ahead and say that right now? This is a freaking ridiculous conversation. Okay. This is a ridiculous conversation, but I love having it. So her story about Sasquatch, there were a lot of similarities. She heard noises, and it was almost like that's how fast they're moving. You can't see. Right. No, absolutely. And they're probably really camouflaged also. Um, so her story at the lake was very similar. Everything quiets down, all the animals, everything quiets down. Also, when she, oh, the same thing of a mimicking of a sound or um or a loud sound. I wish I could play the intro to the Sasquatch Chronicles for you. So listen, if you get on Spotify, it's a podcast on Spotify. Let's see. Yeah, boyfriend is like Gigi Allen, makes you instinctively puffer and run for safety. Absolutely. No, I will absolutely agree with that. Bigfoot would definitely scare me, probably even more than Gigi Allen, which is very, very odd. Um, no, you cannot be in my live video. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, you can. Okay. So let's see. All right. So, first of all, you have to text to know the subject we're talking on if you want to be in my video. So, let's start there, Dolly Python. If you're going to be in my video, tell me the subject of which I am talking. Now, I will also say this. Aha, they got rid of the request. Oh, nope. So, I will tell you this. In the whole era of oh yeah, so these are the things the girl described. The silence of the birds, the silence of the animals. Also described the mimicking of a female sound, which supposedly fine. Okay, fine. You can be in the video. All right. So fair warning, I will hang up on you. Okay? Let's see. Let's see if it works. This is the first time I've ever done a video request on. Hello, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for calling in. Well, you can't. I nobody can see you, so you don't have to worry. You only anybody can only hear your voice. So you already said you knew what we were talking about, which was Bigfoot. Yes, the Sasquatch. So, have you ever had a Sasquatch encounter that didn't include being drunk and fucked up on drugs and pretending like you did? Out in the woods with binoculars, yes. Well, I would imagine you'd have to have. Oh, that look, people can see you there though. Okay, so you've never okay, how about this? Have you ever had a cryptid experience? Have you ever seen an anomaly, not ghost? We've already talked about that. I refuse to talk about ghost things with you. Have you ever had a cryptid experience? Like, don't you have what is it? Don't you're from North Texas, is that correct? Oh, and she froze. Okay. Well, that is good. We will go ahead and get rid of her. So let's keep this in mind. All right. Cryptid experiences are weird. They are odd. But the weirdest part is whenever they all have a commonality. When there is a commonality of situation to it. That is the thing that I think I find the most odd about the cryptid experience or the Bigfoot experience or whatever you call it, because there are such commonalities. Like, for instance, Loch Ness monster, which I don't know if we've ever gotten to the bottom of. The experiences seem to be very similar. They seem to have a very similar tilt to them. Now, if speaking of which, I'm on Facebook at Ronan Brown. I'm on Instagram at 12 Brown. And I am on YouTube at Brushing Teeth with Robert. Okay, we'll try this again with somebody with a bad internet connection, and we'll see if they come in. Now, that's the weirdest part is the commonality of the experience. So Miss Gretchen, have you ever had an experience with a cryptid or Bigfoot, anything like that? Okay, please go ahead, regale us with your story. Okay. Now,
It's very fragmented. I'm going to recall certain things to make sure that they're just very fragmented.
now it is true here in North Texas, we have what's known as the Lake Worth Monster. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Now, can you explain, because I have not really looked into it, what is the Lake Worth Monster? Is it similar to like the Loch Ness Monster?
I'm pretty sure it has something to do. I mean, if you're talking about reality, every lake has a monster or a ghost or some sort of folklore.
Okay, so but I'm not. Let's say let's talk encrypted talk. So what is the Lake Worth Monster, or do you know?
It's probably, I think, probably like an alligator gar,
Yeah, probably, more than likely.
or like my grandpa's been known to take, alligators or alligator gars or dead animals and make them into scarecrows.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was a big thing.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of a common thing to do.
Canyon Lake. So here's a few things. Here's a few bits of trivia people do not know about Texas lakes. First of all, there is only one non-man-made lake in the entire state. Every lake that resides in Texas is man-made by a dam. All right. There's only
Okay.
one lake that is not, that is an actual natural forming lake. And I believe it's in East Texas, if I'm correct. And I believe it's called Lake Racist.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Okay. So, but it's Lake something. Um,
Lake Turtle Lake, Caddo Lake.
is it Caddo? Okay. I think it might be Caddo. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
Caddo Lake.
And that is the only lake that is not man made. Now, in so Canyon Lake, a lot of lakes in Texas actually were towns. There were towns that we flooded because they lied in these plains in which were basically conducive for building a lake. All right. Now, Canyon Lake is a prime example. Now, there are no legends that I know of with Canyon Lake, but I do know this. I know that I have seen a picture of a catfish that was as big as a Volkswagen bug that sits right at the dam of Canyon Lake Dam. Because all it has to do is sit there and open its mouth and just take in, and as we know, catfish get
Trash.
they
It's taking
just
trash.
taking trash, and we all know catfish are trash eaters, and
Yes.
so we know that also that that it's conducive for stories like that. Like if you were a scuba diver and you went down there and you saw that thing for the first time, it would flip you out, and you'd be like, "There's a monster at the bottom of this lake. It's as big as a Volkswagen bug."
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, anything by the dam because it's so deep by the dam.
Yes,
All the big fish are by the dam.
right.
Every fucked up is by the dam. The
Uh,
big feet, the big hooks are by the dam.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah, there's tons of small towns. Walnut Grove
Walnut, yes, Walnut Grove.
up the prairie. I mean,
Hmm.
that's underneath the
Yeah,
Canyon Lake.
yeah, and I've always wanted to like scuba dive down there, like down in these different lakes and see what the towns look like. Because there's like
Yeah.
probably old timey church still down there. There are probably still buildings that probably still stand down there.
Um, outside of the Hudson Bay,
Mm.
outside of around New
New
York,
York, yeah, Hudson, yeah,
they've done a amazing. It's either a book or it's something like he's had excavations. That's not the right word.
yeah,
I didn't pronounce it right, but there is some crazy stuff.
yeah.
That's in Hudson Bay. I mean,
Well,
they've gone down there. There's like pianos and you name it.
did you hear about that thing recently where your favorite person, who's your favorite podcaster in the world? What's his name? Um, Joe Rogan. Yes, Joe Rogan had a guy on his podcast who was a like an archaeologist. And back in the, I guess in the 20s or 30s, they didn't have enough room for all the fossils to put in the museums there in New York, and so they dumped them in the East River.
Really?
And the guy gave the coordinates of where he thought they dumped them. And so scuba divers have been down there and they've been just busting out with all these different fossils from like woolly mammoths and from fucking like saber tooth tigers and stuff, all sorts of like like prehistoric fossils have been down there in the East River for like ever.
Well, I think down in the Hudson Bay, there's like there's a zoo.
Yeah.
There, I can't think of it right now because I'm on the spot. I don't do that very well.
Yeah.
Make up some shit. Joe Rogan.
You know, Joe Rogan. I blame Joe Rogan. That's who I blame. I blame Joe Rogan. That was, by the way, when we met, that was one of the funniest things you first said. It was something Casey had said something, and then you went, "Yeah, I blame Joe Rogan," like for like something completely innocuous. Like,
I just knew because you were bald. I knew because you were bald. That, you obviously were bald because you had some sort of alliance with Joe Rogan.
yeah, we're part of the. It's a big tribe. It's a cult. It's a cult. Yeah, it's a cult. But what's funny is there's similarities in the Joe Rogan cult and AA, in which at the very end we all hold hands and go, "Keep coming back. It works if you work it." We all do that at the very end of both of them. Yeah, is that?
I was in a situation where it was not, it was something like somebody died or it was something very somber or it was something. We did like the Lord's Prayer and then somebody had to throw in that keep just like it's
Oh,
so cheesy.
I would totally do that. I would totally do that.
I mean, you got to be cheesy sometimes, but this was like inappropriate.
Somebody
And then I had some inappropriate laughter.
actually, somebody on Instagram just said a very smart thing, which is, what if Bigfoot this whole time is just covered with moss? Which I absolutely that would.
He's covered like he's covered in one of those nets that you see in Long John Silver's.
Yeah. Oh yeah, with all the fucking fake fish in it. But yeah, absolutely. How else would they be? How else would they camouflage themselves? I'm sure they're covered in moss. I'm sure they're covered in grass and dirt and mud, and their hair is probably dreaded and gross. They're probably gross as fuck. You'd imagine Bigfoot don't bathe on a regular basis. That's not something that they do on a regular basis, you know?
Well, I saw something on TikTok the other day about a nurse that was working in the ER. This lady came in and she had a potato growing. She had an old lady. She had a potato growing in her vagina. So
She had a potato growing in her vagina.
she had a bush growing out of her bush.
Well, that
Sometimes you hear about people that don't bathe.
yes.
Like a lot of people throughout the years who didn't bathe and they had the noodles.
Yes.
It's just awful.
Or what about even the people that like, that do bathe and still they like somehow while they're asleep, so like some kind of larvae like plant something in their ear or in their nose, and next thing you know, like maggots, or they're having to like get a worm out of their skin or something that's burrowed in their skin.
It's like, why?
Well, I mean that happens. I saw, what was it? Me and Bridget were watching a thing that's on Netflix right now called 64. And it's basically about a spacecraft that crashes on Earth during the dinosaur age. And during the dinosaur age, like way before humans are around, right? And it was cool. Adam Driver's in it, which I fucking love that dude. He's awesome. And at one point, the little girl goes to sleep, and a larva gets in her throat and basically implants itself in her throat, and he has to like get it out, you know. And you hear about that all the time, those parasites that will get inside of you. And I'm sure the Bigfoot. Here's my question. Here's my big question about the Bigfoot. Here is my big question about Bigfoot, if they exist or if they don't. How come we haven't found Bigfoot bones?
How come we have what?
How come we haven't found Bigfoot bones? Where are the dead Bigfoot?
Well, I don't know. I think that we probably have, but we just
Or we just mistake them for human bones, or we found them and just mistake them for something else.
Right. We didn't want, it was just too good to be true.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna go and let you go now. Thank you for calling in. I'm starting to get to the.
And on me, I was trying to join, and I don't know how to join these things. And I just thought we were, even though I usually FaceTime anyway.
This is true. This is true. No, you did great. You did fantastic. It was great for you to call in. Everybody, let's thank Gretchen for calling in and talking to us about the crazy North Texas lake system. All right, listen, have a good day. And hey, are you
Are you going to the meeting?
man, I wanna go do that mic that's in Arlington. Why don't you skip the meeting? Let's go do that mic in Arlington.
I'll go with you. I'm going to go up here to the Chinese place to get this knot out of my back.
Okay. All right.
But call me in a little bit.
Okay, sounds good. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, now let's see. I have to figure out how to cancel her out now. I don't know how to. Nope, that's not how you do that. You have to hang up. You have to hang up.
How do I do that?
I don't know. You just hang up, I guess.
Man,
I don't know.
you want to see how crazy these fucking people are in this place? You want to see the sister that has a ponytail?
No, I do not. I do not. I'm gonna have. I don't know how to freaking do this. How do I do this?
With bones are in there.
I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt it at all.
It's dark in there. And they're doing
All right, you have to hang up now. I'll talk to you later.
how do I
You hit the X on your thing. You see an X?
next?
An X.
No.
Oh, I don't know how to do it either. All right.
You're so over.
Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay, bye-bye. Talk to you later. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank Gretchen for being on here and adding to the conversation. So let's go ahead and put our trusty headphones back on. Now, I guess I'll go ahead and close this out with a little bit of a Bigfoot story of my own. And it's not a sighting. It wasn't an incident. It was nothing I saw Bigfoot wise. It was about the very first time that Bigfoot really piqued my interest. Okay. And this is what happened. All right. This is what happened during my Bigfoot situation. So I was living in Canyon Lake at the time. We were just talking about that. And I used to do on the weekends, I did an overnight radio DJ thing for a classic rock station. What was it? It was 107.3 KZEP. Of course, it was KZEP because, of course, that's what it is. There used to be a radio show back in the day, and it was called Coast to Coast. And it was basically a conspiracy radio show. And you could find it. It was super long running. It ran forever. And the guy's name was Art Bell. And he's kind of where you could learn about all sorts of stuff. You can learn about like the crystal skull theory or the UFOs, Bigfoot, the Mothman prophecy, whatever you want to learn about, you could learn about watching Coast to Coast with Art Bell, right? Well, my overnight DJ gig started at 11:30 at night and ran until 6:30 in the morning. And it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So needless to say, I went in drunk a lot, like a lot. Well, it also required that I drive from Canyon Lake into San Antonio at a very odd time at night on the weekends. At the time, that whole area from Canyon Lake into San Antonio was not developed at all. It wasn't nearly as many businesses as there are now. So it was very large swaths of driving in which things were extremely dark. All right. Now keep this in mind. I'm driving and I'm listening to Coast with Art Bell, and he has a caller come in. And the caller sounds older, sounds like an older gentleman. And he starts telling a story about how him and his buddies from Vietnam every year they would get together and go on a hunting trip together, and they would all go hunt together. Now, that whole camaraderie thing. All right. Well, he starts telling the story about how him and three of his buddies were out hunting in the middle of the woods, and they believe they may have shot and killed a female Bigfoot and the Bigfoot's child. Now, again, I want to say this. I don't necessarily believe in Bigfoot, but the way this gentleman is telling the story, it sounds real. You can hear the remorse in him. You can hear the almost holding back tears from what he did. And basically what they did is they shot these things and then they buried them. You can find this, by the way. I have looked up this episode and I have re-listened this episode. And every single time I've listened to this episode, it freaks me out. It freaks me out a little bit to hear because there's such sincerity. There is such sincerity and remorse in this gentleman's voice. He talks a little bit about his experiences in Vietnam and then why this was so hard for him and how it was an accidental and how he feels so bad about it. And it is rough. Now, you have to imagine, I'm listening to this, and it is midnight in the middle of nowhere. I'm driving a shitty Ford Escort that could break down at any moment. This is easily in 96, 97, maybe 98 at the most. So it's not like I have a cell phone on me, all right? It's not like I'm going to call somebody if I break down. And Canyon Lake in that area, Canyon Lake, Spring Branch, Blanco, Fredericksburg, it's known for its share of odd anomalies and cryptids also. So I'm driving and I am flipping out. I could not get to San Antonio fast enough. And that's kind of what started me down the road of wanting to know more about cryptids, whether you believe them or not, whether I believe them or not, and what their effect is not only on the individuals that claim to have seen them, whether they are true or not, but also the effect that they have on culture as a whole. For instance, I have a shirt that has Bigfoot in a pair of like military night goggles, like Bigfoot is part of the American lexicon. Bigfoot is part of our mythos, if you will. Just like is it over to India or Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, and in those hills, they have myths of giants that still exist to this day, supposedly. Big giants that even people in the U.S. military have said they saw, So these mythos that happen and have happened through the years and through the decades and generations have not changed much. Culturally, they have not changed much. They have just become a little bit more prevalent, and we talk about them a little bit more. And that's the thing about cryptids. That's that whole thing about getting into cryptids and learning about cryptids is like, it doesn't really matter whether you believe in them or not. And I really don't believe. I'm gonna put quotes. Let's put air quotes there. I don't really believe in cryptids. I don't really believe in Bigfoot. I don't really believe in, La Rona or the Mothman or things like that. But I find it interesting that as the generations have gone on and as these have become part of a larger topic of what we believe and what we don't believe, it only adds to our ability to keep legends and myths alive, which is kind of awesome, being that we live in such a jaded media world in which any piece of media, I could get on a cam right now and see Paris, France. I could get on I could look at the news in Afghanistan right now, or the news in Moscow. And even with this availability of media that is still there with us, every day, and can make us very jaded and make us very apathetic, there are still these mythos and legends that not only have endured, but they've only gotten larger and gotten bigger and become a bigger part of what we talk about and how we talk about it. Think about it for a second. Think about it, those of y'all out there. Think about how many times you've sat down with a group of friends and you've started talking about ghosts, and everybody has a ghost story. everybody has a ghost story, or everybody has a non-ghost story. They have the story of, like, I thought this was a ghost, but it wasn't. Ghosts are bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, these things have become so prevalent, and we've kept them alive so well that it almost shows that we still have a childlike wonder that still exists to this day, and it still exists through these generations, in which they could have easily been proven wrong. They could have easily been proven wrong, and yet we still keep them alive. You know. Well, I have reached my 50-minute mark, which is the longest one I've done the last 3 days. I want to thank anybody for tuning in and watching. I want to thank Gretchen for calling and talking to us about the Texas Lake System, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you who has taken time out of your day, the 50 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever you did to watch me on here and see what I'm doing. I want to thank you all. I also want to thank you all for making it through Monday and enjoying your Monday and having a Monday together. And by together, I mean kind of the group together. A lot of us don't know each other on a daily basis or hang out with each other on a daily basis, but we still all made it through our Monday together. I want to tell you that I love you, and I want to tell you that you should love each other. And I want to tell you that you made it through another day in which you breathed great air. You got to eat food. You had shelter over you, and you were able to make it through another day. And you should be grateful for that. You should be grateful because I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for you. So love each other. Love yourselves. And hopefully I'll see you soon. Thank you very much for tuning in. And see you around the corner.